Hi, good evening, everyone. It seems sort of formal to be standing here with this podium, considering it's a very small group. We'll probably be sitting in a circle. But I'd like to welcome you tonight. Thank you for coming. I know that it's a Thursday night, and I know that it's midwinter, but it's important to bring our parents in, to learn about our programs, and just simply to even learn about what graduation looks like here in BC, but also at QMS. I'm Allie O'Mara Armstrong. I'm the Director of Academics in the Senior School. And tonight we're going to share about some graduation requirements, course offerings, and then we have our post-secondary counselors, Sue and Carol, who are here. And they're going to share a little bit about university advising and academic advising. And Andrew Monroe, our deputy head, is going to talk a little bit about the whole student development and how important that is in the student profile. So I wanted to actually start with a little wee video clip from this particular, it's from What Schools Could Be. And so this is Ted Dintersmith's work, and Ted Dintersmith does a lot of work out of Harvard and was associated with what's best for students through the Sir Ken Robinson movement. And so this is part of a series that he did associated with his book, and it's just a little clip to inspire how we should be thinking about the skills that our children may need as they move into the world of work in the future. So I'll start with that. Okay, so I mean, the essence is not necessarily that all our children need to go into tech, but that they certainly need to be prepared to be able to think creatively about the world around them, because that's something that the technology can't do. And so one of the things that we certainly emphasize, I'm just going to open this up, at QMS is future-ready skills and ensuring that our students do have the competencies so that they can succeed in whatever post-secondary pathway they choose. So tonight is about graduation, and it's about the program that we offer, but it's also about what we offer in a way that will help to develop these skills. So these skills are from Dr. Tony Wagner. He's also from Harvard, and he works with Ted Dintersmith. And he's identified these top competencies and aptitudes as being those that are most necessary for students when they graduate. So top grades and scores are sometimes important for getting into particular universities, and having things on your resume that demonstrate your leadership capacities and what you've done in life are equally important. But being able to think critically about the things that are happening around us is probably of the utmost importance. And I think that that's what we're going to start to see, particularly if you have younger children in the room, when they start to begin to choose their post-secondary pathways, the kinds of programs that are available to them, whether it's at university, college, or through internships and work-related experiences. Has anyone seen this before? Sort of list of future-ready skills. There are variations on it, but they all involve the capacity to think creatively and with an innovator's mindset, problem solving. It's just not something that technology can do as well as humans. And so we want to make sure our students can do that. Is anyone unfamiliar with the BC system? We have a couple people here. Yeah, okay. So here at QMS, our students will follow primarily what we call a dogwood pathway, and that's what they begin to work towards when they get into grade 10. So some parents are surprised to hear that grade 8 and 9 are not part of the graduation program, even though it's part of our high school. It is not credit accruing, so the students are gaining skills, but it's part of the K-9 program. So students that enter into grade 10 begin to develop credits, and to graduate, students need 80 total credits. I'm not sure what that was. I think that's the microphone. And in this case, they have 52 that are required, that are set out by the ministry. And just because the numbers can be a bit mind-boggling, each course in general is worth 4 credits. So it's not 1 credit per course. That would be insane. They then have 28 elective credits, which gives you an idea of how much choice they have between grades 10 and 12 in terms of the things that they would elect to take. And then they will need to complete literacy and numeracy assessments in British Columbia. So the literacy and numeracy assessments are required to graduate. They do 2 in grade 10, a literacy, and then respectively a numeracy assessment, and they're scored on a proficiency scale. It's the same proficiency scale that we're now seeing in report cards. And for the most part, these 2 are benchmarking assessments, and they're really for the personal use of the students and their families. They're not being used by universities or colleges. They do show up on a transcript, though. So they're important that students put their best foot forward. They're very similar to the FSAs, if you're familiar with the foundation skills assessments. But in grade 12, they do need to complete one that's a literacy assessment that is looked at by some universities. So some universities have assessed it and determined that it's important that students achieve a 3 or proficient on that assessment, and they all have to do that by the time they graduate. Currently, I believe it's only UBC and SFU that are looking at it. Hard to say whether or not that will change as it becomes more ingrained in the system. It's no longer like the provincial exam of the past where it's worth a percentage of their English 12 or their grade 12 English mark. Students in BC also do career and life education, and through our program they do that in their faculty advisory, and they're building their career education portfolio essentially from the time they start in grade 8. And then in grade 12 they do a capstone. Our aspiration is for the capstone to be able to show some of those competencies that we would like them to be able to demonstrate, and for it to be a public exhibition of learning. We're still working on that. But students are certainly engaging in research about things that they are interested in for their futures. Currently, one of the other most recent changes to the graduation program is that students need an Indigenous focus credit to graduate. It's now a requirement. And so they can take that through 2 different course pathways at QMS. There is an English First Peoples pathway, so they can take it currently through grade 11, and we're looking at adding it in grade 10 next year as well. And then they can take contemporary Indigenous studies as well as a course. And that will be a requirement for them to receive their transcript verification for them to graduate. So I won't belabor this too much, but generally speaking, these are the required courses, not the electives, that they will require at each grade. You can see that grade 10 is obviously more fulsome. They don't have as much choice in grade 10. By grade 11, I think what's the most poignant for parents to know is that students, by the time they get into grade 11, really do begin to choose their pathway courses. So this means that they begin to really need to think about, if they're going to university, what might they need in order to enter into the program of their choice. So they begin to choose whether or not they're going to take a purely science route. They may go humanities route, and then we have the kids who want to keep all the doors open, which can sometimes be more stressful, but it provides them with a little bit more option when they're still a little unsure. Does anyone have questions about these courses or requirements? I think although provinces, I was just explaining, although provincially every system is different, this is fairly standard across the country. At QMS, academic counseling comes through a variety of channels. We really want students to be asking questions about what they're interested in as soon as they can, but without the stress of feeling like they're determining their final destination when they're making choices. So we do counsel students to really think about choices that will fit their needs now, knowing that it may not be definite. Things are very different from when we went to university or college or post-graduation, and students tend to change tack a few times now, more than what we did probably back when we graduated. So these are some questions that are listed as well. Some of you have the course selection companion guide. I encourage you to have conversations with your children at home about what their interests are and what they can see themselves potentially being interested in enough to study. And that's sort of the key. We want them to be interested in it, to know that things can be hard, but that they have some sort of idea of what they might want to explore when they graduate. As we were just talking about this earlier, the systems, Carol and Sue will fill you in a little bit on the systems. Going to different jurisdictions and countries can be quite different. So students who are going to Canadian universities will have certain requirements, which can be quite different from students going to US or UK universities. And we will support them at QMS to meet those objectives, but it's important for them to begin to look at what those requirements might be, and then you're going to hear later what the costs and other considerations might be if they decide to go outside of Canada. We at QMS try to offer a variety of programs that will inspire some interest. So we're proud about some of the programs that we've developed, particularly in partnership with our community. Equine science is one. A lot of these are elective courses, and they're courses that are intended to inspire interest. So we have equine science courses at the grade 10 and 11 level. We've been working with Dr. Nielsen, who's our physician in residence, to develop medical sciences course. It's a comprehensive course that looks at both medical sciences as it relates to being a physician, but also paramedical sciences. So, people who are in the medical field that may not necessarily be destined to be a physician. He even goes so far as to bring in a lot of experiential elements to that class. So he'll have his own blood drawn with a nurse, and they can watch. He'll never use a student, but he brings a lot of medical professionals into the school so that they can share their experiences with the students. We do, of course, have the Indigenous Studies courses, and then we have a suite of advanced placement courses, which we can talk more about later, but if you're interested in knowing more about the value of AP courses or the purpose of them, we have them in humanities, STEM, so science and math, and students can opt to take these courses to enrich their academic interests. And we'll talk about the value of AP courses as it relates to applying to university. We have a variety of arts courses, and for a small school, I think it's fairly impressive. And most recently, our most popular course has been pottery. So pottery fills up almost immediately. Film and television studies, Neil, who was back here a minute ago, he's been working on both a beginner and an advanced. It's both film and television, and they've gone to several destinations, to some film festivals, and they've been developing a film studio, and Neil has done quite an impressive job in the past few years developing that program. The regular courses that we offer fall under the banner of science and technology, humanities, and then we have physical education courses, and students will take physical education during the school day, and Ander will speak a little bit about the opportunities they have for PE to develop outside of the school day. Oh, and one of our most popular courses is Culinary World Tour. It's actually, it exploded pretty much the first year that we put it in place. And so students can opt to take culinary in 8 and 9, but 10, 11, and 12, they take it from a historical and geopolitical perspective as well. So they'll learn about the origins of the food as well as cooking it. Our school is student-centered in nature, and so we provide a variety of academic supports, including academic advisors and learning support. Each student has a faculty advisor, so that you would by now know your child's faculty advisor because they meet with them every morning. They also can come and see me, and they can come and see any of the directors that are responsible for the programs where they might be specializing. And boarding house parents, we have one here, Mr. Jones. Yeah. So this is the time where we will begin to present the material and courses to students so that they can start to think about it. By March, we aspire for all of our students who are going into grade 10 or above to have selected their courses, hopefully in a final way by the end of March break. And that way they should know in the spring what they're planning on taking. Course selection happens again before they go off for the summer, but they will have an opportunity if they need to consider changes in the fall as well. You will receive information home too so that you can continue having these conversations with your children as they choose. And I'm going to open it up to any questions you might have about the courses, the way they select courses, or the offerings that we have at school. And if you didn't pick up one of the companion guides, please do. Those courses are almost entirely likely to be offered next year. They're always based on enrollment, so we just have to ensure that we have enough interest in some of our electives to run them.
So do the students meet with their person before they select? Because I know we have a student that got stressed out last year.
Yes.
And so didn't know what to select.
Yeah.
So is there an opportunity to meet to get some guidance?
Yeah. So first we'll do what we do is chapel presentations where departments will come and they'll pitch the courses to students. And then Sue and Carol will visit faculty advisories, so whole grade groups, and then do individual counseling, particularly in your case for students that are going into grade 11 where they begin to specialize those pathways a little bit more. So there is whole school group, and then individual counseling. And then university counselors are available at all times for them to come and consult with, book an appointment. Yeah.
Is there sort of specific practice and preparation for the literacy and numeracy assessments? I found that my kids at our old school were definitely blindsided by the essay test when they came because there was no preparation in advance. Yeah, they don't need to prepare. They certainly are. They certainly are intended to assess them based on where they're at in that moment. But we do send home a letter, usually a month in advance. This year we sent it home before Christmas, and then they were held in January with information for parents so that they can practice at home. And then our English teachers and math teachers will do practice, generally speaking, within their courses. We don't belabor the grade 10 ones too much because they are just intended to be a benchmark, but they will have exposure to them, certainly. We don't want them to study to the test because it sort of defeats the purpose of that particular assessment, and we don't want them to be too stressed out by it. But it is certainly an assessment that does take several hours, so we want them to be ready at the same time.
Okay, so I haven't talked a lot about AP courses, but they will come out again in the post-secondary conversation. There is some information there specifically about the value of some of the courses and what certain courses identification means. So we have locally developed courses that can't be used for university applications, but they can be used to earn credits. And we also have the advanced placement courses that can be used as a grade 12 course. They're externally accredited. But the exams, for example, when students elect to write the exams, they cannot use those necessarily in Canada to apply to university. They can, on the other hand, use them for some other jurisdictions like the UK. So depending on where they're planning on going, if they have really high aspirations and they want to go to Cambridge, they would need 5 AP exams at a score of 5, which is the top grade. But in Canada, you would not use the AP examinations for entrance purposes. You'd use those examinations for advanced placement. So it's elective. They still receive the course mark. They just get to choose whether or not they take the exam. If that helps set the tone a little bit. Yeah. I'd like to invite Andrew up just in between to sandwich to talk a little bit about that whole person development and how we facilitate that.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Do you want me to shut?
I might go, can I get to your first slide? And could you just leave that one up, please? That one, yeah. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to try not to talk too long on the sort of the co-curricular programs and some of the after-school activities and things that are offered in the senior school, but also if anyone here has children in the junior school, also I know they have clubs and activities after school that run too. It's an area that I'm particularly interested in because it was something that I loved doing when I was at school. And it was almost one of the, that time of day that I would really look forward to, get through the sort of the academic part of the day, and then I could sink my teeth into some areas that just really, I got really passionate about, and I liked interacting with the teachers in a sort of a different environment, and that helped develop a relationship with my teachers in a slightly different way that I then actually found sort of benefited me during the school day too. So I studied geography at Edinburgh University, and I don't think it's a coincidence that my first rugby coach in my grade 8 year, who I just had a huge amount of respect for, was head of geography and the geography teacher at the school I was at. And yeah, I think those two things probably went hand in hand. So I think it's some of these programs and activities, it's an opportunity for people to be influenced, inspired, find areas of passion, things that they're interested in that they really want to engage with. And what I think will happen along the way is that they'll also be developing a lot of these skills and competencies as they engage with them, whether it's Model UN, whether they all the sort of the research skills that come with that, the collaboration, the communication, the problem solving, those sorts of things when they go to the Model UN conferences. A musical or a sort of a drama experience, and being involved in a school play, sports and athletics obviously, and music too. I was having a conversation with my son Hector, who's my eldest of 3 boys, and he's in grade 8 here, and he absolutely loves his mountain biking, and I think he thinks that he is mountain biking. And so I was having a chat with him about actually how sort of potentially problematic that might be for him one day, if it was for some reason taken away, or he sort of fell out of love with it, and his identity was so tightly captured within this idea of being a mountain biker that I just said to him, like, why do you love mountain biking? Why are you so good at mountain biking? Why do you think you have success in that area? And as we sort of broke it down and looked at, well, there's a lot of sort of self-discipline, and we looked at some of the tactical pieces and how he actually analyzes the videos and looks for skills and techniques, and then how does he communicate that with the coach and try to express to the coach what he's sensing in his rides. And so I tried to get him to a place, and I'm not sure whether we really arrived there, but to appreciate that it's because of his competencies put together that enabled him to be successful in that area. And you can apply those competencies across many different environments in other areas, and so trying to get him to identify more with these kinds of future-ready skills and appreciate how you can develop those in a variety of environments, so that you can be more agile as you move up and you move through life. And you don't need to necessarily be so beholden to one thing. And so, yeah, I think that's something that's also really important for me to share with you is how deeply I believe these skills that obviously we're trying in a very deliberate way to develop throughout the classroom day are also things, creativity in the drama and personal expression, or whether it's problem solving within a team, and a coach has set up a particular situation. Well, how would you deal with this in a game? So I think it's I think it's a really important part of the learning process, and I think it's wonderful that we've been able to generate and build through teachers who've got expertise in various areas, quite robust programming after school with lots of different options. As we sort of move forward and through the school, ideally in grade 8, 9, we want people to try as many things as possible. We're coming up to a sort of a changeover time in the co-curricular programming after school. So didn't do this last term or the one before, but I'll make sure all parents receive the information on what are the activities, clubs, and sports that are available, so that you can have those conversations with your children. We advertise and market them internally to the students, but there's probably a misstep there is not making sure our parents really know what's on offer. So you can ask, well, why don't you try this? And wouldn't that be interesting to explore? So we'll do that. But it's as we move through and you look towards sort of university applications too. I think as I was having a chat earlier with Sue, and she might maybe expand on this if it's relevant, or if you have any more questions. But depending really on where you're applying, the influence of your co-curriculars or what you do after school might vary. But the bottom line is that the universities want to see, okay, they want a complete picture of the student that's coming through that they're considering. So they are looking for, who is this person? How are they contributed in their environment and to their school? What sorts of challenges are they taking on? And so I think that for your children to build a set of experiences and be able to speak to those and why they were valuable and meaningful for them is really important when it comes to that university application stage as well. So if you have any more specific questions on that, I mean, certainly some. There are, if you're looking for scholarships and bursaries and things like that, there are certain sports that and certain programs as well. Whether it's a university's got a strong debating club and you're very experienced with Model UN, and it really strengthens applications in those circumstances too. Okay, I'm not sure if there's. I think that's. Are there any questions? Any thoughts on that or? Excellent. Thank you.
Switch
I'll do
over.
slides and you talk, and I can push the buttons. I'll do the things. Wonderful.
Okay, hopefully it should work.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, thanks for coming tonight, everyone. We've taken a good look at our slide deck, and we're trying to cut it down a little bit, but there's lots.
It's not easy to do.
Who are we? This is Sue Barzo. I'm Carol Ingledew. And this is kind of how we divide things. So we go by last names. She's A through L, and I'm M through Z. The important piece is the bottom of this. There's a lot of work put into this post-secondary teams page that all of the students have access to. If you as a parent are ever kind of wondering anything about this process, this teams page has tons of information, so ask your child to open that up and take a look at that when they're in grades 10 through 12.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And we have a nice little balance of,
We do.
yeah, some,
Absolutely. So this is kind of our process and how we approach this whole thing, because we do not want to overwhelm students with everything all at once. So really in grade 7 through 9, they're exploring the courses that we offer, the different clubs that Andrew just spoke about, and the activities. and just kind of seeing where their interest and abilities lie. So we offer a lot of elective programs in grades 8 and 9, and the students get to select applied skills courses and other arts electives in that year. So they get a little flavor in grade 8 and then in grade 9, so they can try all of the different elective options, or pretty close. And that will help kind of fine tune things for when they head into grade 10 and 11. Grade 10 is a bit prescriptive. They have to take all of their mandatory courses that the ministry would like them to take. And then typically speaking, if a student is taking a second language that we offer, they have 2 other elective choices that they can make. And they can make fine arts choices, they can make applied skills choices, they can do a combination of things. They can take those lovely courses like medical science if they want. Some students may choose to dive into taking an AP course in their grade 10 year, if they want to get started on that, if that's their focus. And then grade 12, this is when all of the applications start. Applications can all happen in their grade 12 year for university. So typically speaking, we will send some grade 11 students off before the summer if they're planning on applying to the US or the UK with some thoughts about what they should be doing over the summer, which you'll see a little bit later on to help with their applications, because there's more essay writing and different things that they potentially need to do for that student profile to present the full package that some of the schools are looking for. And to think about what they are potentially going to write in the essays, because then when they start grade 12, we hit the ground running.
Boy, do we ever.
And if they've done a little bit of that preliminary work, it helps reduce their stress and your stress as well.
Yeah. I think I jump in here.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, we are always there to be the guide on the side and help the students. And so Ali alluded to it earlier, that we'll start having, meetings with the grade 10 advisory groups and the 11 advisory groups, and we'll have a chance to see them all. And we always have the open door that students can come and meet with us anytime that they would like to have some questions answered about course selections. And you are more than welcome to be a part of that too, because when we're all sort of understanding each other, it's a lot easier process. And so we're there as much as possible. We're trying to help the students understand the process, and it is tricky because every country is a little bit different and every school is a little bit different. There's not one uniform process across the country at all. Everyone's a little bit different. However, we're trying to help them be able to get onto, the sites and understand what they're reading and how they can look after themselves, because after they're gone, they're going to be navigating those systems on their own. So we're trying to build up their competencies within that. And probably the big piece is that they're becoming more independent and responsible. Students don't love email, and that's the way universities communicate with them. And then they also have, portals where they can put things in, but the email said we need to have an updated transcript. And sometimes those just sit unread in inboxes, because that's not their number one form of communication. So being responsible with that, really being organized. There's a lot of details for them, passwords and having to get onto sites. So it is a lot, and so we recognize that and work with them to get through it, but we're trying to get them to be independent. Certainly we support, I think you've heard the big 3, most of our students choose to stay in Canada. We have great schools and great programs, and they're familiar with them, and familiarity tends to build a little more confidence. Some, expand beyond, and we support all of that. But we do find that most of our students are interested and keen to look at those Canadian programs. I think this is a big part of that. If you're looking at that document and having a conversation at home, as we're looking at courses for next year, I do think, how busy are you going to be? If you do want to go down the road of maybe taking an AP course in your grade 10 or 11 year or grade 12 year, knowing that there's more to it. That's a first year university content. So that's probably going to be more homework, probably a faster pace of delivery. Am I able to handle that? Am I thinking that I want to keep that part-time job that I had in the summer? Do I want to keep some hours going? Am I trying to make a senior sports team? Maybe there's more tournaments. What does it look like when I'm trying to figure out where my days go in the week and where my hours go in the day? and to recognize that there's always going to be more that comes on with their courses, and to look at maybe I need a strategic culinary world tour where I don't have as many I don't have essays, I don't have there are some projects, but it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment, and I can cook and eat and have some fun, as opposed to maybe some of our courses where there's a little less food involved. And so by all means, taking a look at that, and sometimes you need to be the voice of reason, knowing you want this planned and this planned and this planned, let's see how this fits. So keeping all that in mind and knowing the value of sleep and all those things. So those are things that we hope can be a part of the thinking. As we work with the students, we certainly talk about, narrowing your choices. And we do know that most of our students really appreciate the schools that we have in Canada. And I think that overall the process is a little more simple in Canada. It's certainly less expensive to attend school in Canada. So you can be looking at tuition fees around $8,000 as a Canadian student. When we just go a few miles across the border and we're over into the US, we can be looking at, $80,000 by the time you're, for per year. So a vast difference. Interestingly, the UK is in between. And so certainly more expensive than Canada, but not as expensive as the US. So sometimes that's where the conversation ends. I know I'm going to stay in Canada because that's what we can afford. And that's great. Great schools. Done. And now I'm looking at Canadian schools alone. Some students will look to do 2 countries. Once in a while we have kids who think they need to apply Model UN style, that we're going to sprinkle ourselves around many countries and see what happens. That just makes an awful lot of work because the application process can have a lot of hours attached to it. We certainly work with students to understand what they need, and is that something where you need to have, harder courses? Do you need to have more experiences, more writing? And so we work with those. We suggest that where possible, kids visit campuses. A lot of students are applying to places that, is that the one that's in Quebec? And we need to follow up on, okay, let's make sure we know where that school is. And so understanding the bigger piece, because sometimes we just hear, oh, that McGill, I've heard McGill's great. Where's McGill? And so we have it, and we want to make sure that they understand, more than just a name and a reputation, but that there's a lot more that goes behind it. So where we can have visits, we certainly recommend that. A lot of the universities are coming to the Cowichan Valley area, certainly the island, and sometimes they don't get all the way out here, but there are career fairs in Vancouver, many that come throughout, and we can bring the reps to the schools, and they can bring their information, answer questions, talk about programs, and share those view books that lets those students at least have a little picture of, well, that's what it looks like. And so that's a really great thing. I think a really big hit last year was our recent grads came back and spoke about their experiences in university. Kids who are still in school, the ones who are dealing with roommate issues and course selections and what am I going to do for the summer and all those realities, and they came and spoke. It was great. And so a lot more recent than my days in university, and so they could speak to that, and that was a really good thing. The students come and talk to us all the time. We've got resources they can look, and just trying to help with that. We've just, for our grade 7, 8s, and 9s, had the opportunity to do the Find Your Fit tour last week, sort of understanding, seeing a little bit more about careers. And our 10s through 12s, just this past week, had the career fair. So just to kind of spark some interest and maybe get some more information from people in those jobs, because the websites don't always give you the reality of what that looks like. And so when it comes to fit, a lot of kids will, and all of us, hear about reputation, and we just are drawn to that, highly ranked, flashy sounding program, and there's a lot more to it. And so I think number one, we all have to recognize is that cost and affordability. And sometimes, and Carol mentions this a lot, it's not just that I can go in my first year, but what does living in that community look like the year after? How difficult is it to find housing in Vancouver right now, anywhere near UBC? And so having some strategies around what does that look like? And so having that bigger vision. Program fits. How far away from home, some kids will automatically, depending on the week. I want to be away from here. And they start, far away, and then they realize. But a lot of kids know themselves well, and they recognize, I'm going to want to come home more than, maybe just at a long break. I'd love to be able to come home sooner than that. And so recognizing that takes a lot of self-knowledge and awareness, and we can help with that. We're a small school. We really are. So walking onto a campus that has 60,000 students is a different experience. And some kids are drawn to that and will be fine, but sitting amongst a lecture hall with 800 kids in your first year psychology course could, be a bit too much. And again, having our students recognize, what does that feel like? I can walk across campus and never see anybody I know, or I can walk across campus and actually, recognize a few faces. And how does that feel? Is that comfortable? Am I going to be able to find my tribe, amongst the 60,000? So all of those things, great opportunities. We're hearing more and more about schools recognizing and providing co-op opportunities so they can work and learn and make money and get experience in their subjects. And that there's some really great opportunities happening for schools. And so those are a lot of the questions that we get them trying to come up with answers for. Do you want to go with that one?
Yeah, the application process. So like Sue said earlier, they differ across the country, even within the province here, BC, what students need to do to apply to university differs. So these are the things that we ideally would like the students to do. This whole process takes time, patience, and detail. This is so important. Open, read, and respond.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah, they don't.
I had a student just last week open up their email. Hey, you've gotten into this university. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
What?
And then they started reading all of their emails because they were like, oh, maybe there's more. So it's crazy, but we're constantly reminding them to do that. We also create guides to help them keep organized, to help them, okay, what is the email for that university you've applied to? What is the password that you've set for yourself for that university? To make it easy to reopen those portals and to update things and provide the universities with the information they need. We help with the research process. Some of the research will be done during faculty advisory for the students that are currently in grade 11 heading into 12. That will be starting in the next couple weeks. My blueprint is used in our faculty advisory. They can show you at home. You can ask them, open up your My Blueprint, and you can do a full university search with your child at home using My Blueprint as well. And it will show what courses do you need, what is the potential cost. It has all sorts of information when you apply all the filters. So if you're wanting something to help you guide your conversations at home, that is a great tool to use. And with all of this process, we start to think about what courses do you need to take, so the doors are open for what you potentially want to do.
Yeah. And that messaging, we're there to help you, but they have to know themselves, because sometimes what do you think, which school? And we know them in one way, you know them in another way. They have to feel comfortable. This is 4 years of their life going to this community, going to that program. And yes, you can change, but we would like to set them off with the best chances of success that they've chosen well. I think we get Canada.
Yes. So really, in a nutshell, what do students need academically speaking to apply to most universities in Canada? English plus 4 academic subjects for the majority of the schools. UBC and U of T potentially looks at English plus 5 academic subjects.
At the grade 12 level.
At the grade 12 level. So those are kind of the bare prerequisites that are needed. They will have, for certain programs, it may have to be pre-calculus and a calculus. For a business program, a science program, it might be the pre-calculus, the calculus, chemistry, and physics, but we help navigate all of that and make sure they have the things that they need. Keeping this in mind, if students mention that they would like to go to the University of Toronto or UBC, we suggest that taking a grade 12 course in their grade 11 year is a good idea because it takes a bit of that pressure off in their grade 12 year, and they can still put in, the culinary courses and the art courses and things that they want to have a little fun with and continue to do throughout school as well. So
you'll still get a mug made in the pottery class.
Yeah, exactly. Keep in mind, What do the students need to keep in mind is that their grade 11 and 12 courses do matter.
Yeah.
How does all of this work? A lot of the schools now have early admissions, so students will apply kind of near the beginning of their grade 12 year. And when will they get those early offers? The early offers usually come out in January and February. So we have a lot of our students getting offers currently right now.
Yeah.
And what are universities using? They're using their grade 11 performance and grades to make those decisions. It doesn't mean if your child doesn't get an early offer that it's all over. What happens is then the student's application is just pushed into the regular round, and then they're going to want to take a look at their interim mid-year grade 12 grades to kind of see what their performance is like. So they have different processes for how they take a look at things. The other things that are considered in a lot of applications now, because a lot of our students have amazing grades, and to tell the difference and to who gets in and who doesn't when everybody has fantastic grades, they require supplemental pieces, activities, experiences, and potentially have to write about it. Computer science programs have that now. Students who apply to UBC, everybody has to do essay writing for that, and they have to speak to all of these kinds of things within their application. Our art students are madly putting together portfolios right now and writing about their portfolios. So there's a lot of different kind of pieces and things, and that's why all of the supplemental activities, the full package, that we give the students the opportunity to create a wonderful student profile here at school with our robust co-curricular program and all of the different extra things that our teachers are offering. These are all the things that students have to keep in mind, but if they're actively engaged and involved in their life here at QMS, it kind of just happens. And it really makes the process that much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, click on that next one.
Yes, so this is things that is important for you as parents to know and for the students to know. So for students that are thinking about studying science in the future in British Columbia, they do need to take chemistry 11 and physics 11 in their grade 11 year. And then when they venture into grade 12, it's 2 of the 3 science courses. It's not as prescriptive, but this is what they're looking for. And we do have the odd student that says, no, I don't want to study science, and then gets into grade 12 and has to backtrack and take these courses. So just know that that's an expectation if your child wants to study science. If they're wanting to study business, in British Columbia, students are needing their pre-calc 12, not necessarily a calculus 12 is recommended, but if they venture outside of British Columbia, the pre-calculus 12 and the calculus 12 for business programs is typically needed. A second language, UBC and SFU are looking for students, UBC Vancouver, not UBC Okanagan. Students need to have a second language to a grade 11 level to be able to apply there. And then for our international students, any student who has entered the BC school system after grade 9 must show proof of English language proficiency, and they need to do some sort of test to prove that for various reasons. And if they're applying to the UK, they need to do an IELTS for visa purposes as well.
US, you're on a roll. You're on a roll.
Things to consider with the US. The schools in the United States take a look at students from grade 9 through grade 12. What are they looking for? They're looking for an upward projection of their grades. So they understand that students change over time, and they maybe, if they have the US in mind, they're making improvements. So by the time they get to grade 12, they're rock stars. They look for rigor. So this is where the AP courses come into play because they are more rigorous. So they want to see that students have challenged themselves where appropriate, which I'll chat about when we get to the slide on AP exams. We are back at needing the SAT. It had gone away for a while, but now with AI and computers doing your essay writing for you, it's hard for universities to differentiate. So we're back at having standardized tests for admission purposes. And ideally, the students prepare and do the SAT in grade 11. We don't have anything here at the school to prepare students for the SAT, but we will provide places where they can do that online. They can do some coursework online to help prepare for that. We don't have a ton of students that apply to schools in the US, so we haven't had the need for an SAT prep course. That may change in the future, but at this point, but there's lots of great courses they can take online to prepare. The other piece is, it's a very holistic process in the US. The students have to have the full package. They need to be involved in all of the activities or the activities that they're passionate about at school. They don't want a laundry list of things, check, 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 check. They want to see that students have done things that they're passionate about, that they enjoy, that they are able to internalize the experiences they're getting from that activity, and then potentially maybe in grade 9 they start out just basic in Model United Nations, and then by grade 12 they're running committees and hosting events and things like that. So they want to see the leadership increase and the involvement increase with time. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
AP courses. So like Ali said, we offer a suite of AP courses. Whether students choose to take them or not is a big question. I would say if students are planning on applying to the Tier 1, the upper end schools in the US, it's worth their while to do the AP courses because they're more rigorous and they will give students an admission advantage if they take them. They're looking for a score of 4 or 5 on the exams. The exams are done in May of every year. The results aren't back until July, so if a student is doing an AP course in grade 12, that exam score doesn't come back until the summer. So for some of them, the courses that they do, if they were to take one in grade 10 and a couple in grade 11, those scores do matter. So it is definitely something to think about if your child is thinking about applying to the US. So it's really, other than that, if students are thinking of taking them here at the school and they're planning on going to a Canadian school, it's because they're really passionate about that subject area and they want to learn more. They want that higher level learning. And the bonus for some students is if they score a 4 or 5 on the final exam, they can send that exam score to the universities and be granted first year university credit for that course. And then they can head off into the second year level course in whatever. But the important thing to remember for students is, they're like, oh, I want to take AP microeconomics. Are you going to study business when you get to university? No. Well, if I get 4 or 5, I get university credit. You get university credit for an economics course, not for just any course that you choose. Like, oh. So some of them don't really realize that. They hear AP, they know it is more rigorous and is flashy, and they think that maybe that's because their friends are doing it, they should do it. So we have lots of conversations around AP courses, but the AP courses, there are benefits to them.
Absolutely.
Students are learning at a first year university level, so some students take them just to prepare them for the rigors of university and take that first year course, even though they got a 4 or 5 on the exam. They just want that early preparation. So there's a lot of reasons for why students choose to take these courses, and that's what we kind of, when they pick those courses or think about selecting them, we have those conversations. And of course for the UK, some of the universities, yes, they're valued, they're needed, and some of them it's not necessary. So it really depends. And we would take a look at the different schools and see what's required.
Absolutely.
And kind of go from there.
Yeah.
All right, bloom where you're planted.
Yeah.
So around this topic of AP exams, this is really important to keep in mind because students can challenge AP courses. They can just prepare for the exam and do the exam as a challenge in May as well. And some students want to do that because they're applying to the US and they want a big load of AP exams with 5s because that does give them an admission exam advantage. But the students need to think about how that impacts their overall life and really if it's if the end goal is worth all of the things. The other thing that American schools have said to us is they are looking for students to bloom where they're planted. They want students to engage in the life of the school. They don't want students scurrying home at the end of the day to prepare for an AP exam just to get a 5, especially if they're not passionate about it. So it's an interesting kind of mix of how you look at these exams and these courses and ultimately decide what's best for a student. So they don't want students just being studying machines at home. They want them to engage in their school and in the life of the school.
Yep. And there are more places than not that want to hear about what you're doing outside of the classroom. And if the classroom doesn't end at 3 o'clock, it happens with my online course at night and my extra additional tutor so I can get through my AP self-studying, and that my classroom just continued. And I didn't ever get to the sports field or the gym or to the clubs or to the weight room or to the anything. If it's just that alone, we're finding that that's actually hurting you more than it is benefiting you. You know, one more hard course versus having, you know, something to talk about what you've been engaged in and what you've done and how you've shown that you can communicate and have teamwork. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to know.
They want to know that you're going to contribute to their campus when you get there as well. So if you're not engaging in your own school, what are you going to do when you're on their university campus?
Yeah.
So what do you do with the kid that's exhausted at the end of the day and being at school takes all their energy?
Yeah.
Not have them study for AP exams.
We're not looking at that, but
Yeah.
that wholesome, that there's nothing left in the pot, and at 3 o'clock they just need to leave. How do you, because you look at that resume and they're not going to be the kid on the sports team.
But that's when students, the thing about applying to American schools and schools in the UK, there's some writing, and the writing can be about the cool things that you take out of your classroom experience. And I did this lab and it was really cool, and things like that. So there was ways to...
And even in Canada saying like, no, I wasn't on student council, and no, I didn't do this, but I volunteered at a horse barn.
Exactly, yeah. All of those things, they're looking for students to do things that they are passionate about. And they do realize that for some students, the passions lie away from the school because they're volunteering, doing whatever. And in some situations, students have to go home and babysit their younger siblings because their parents are working. And some students write about that in their essays because that had a tremendous impact for them. And what did they internalize and take from that?
It's a pretty awesome privilege that you can do things at 3 o'clock or 3:15 or whenever it starts. But whether it's work or whether it's family commitments or I'm helping with the cows in the barn, there's a lot of things that kids can write about.
Student wellness is a really big piece of university life as well. So if students were to write about, what they need to make sure that they can be successful, that works too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question.
It's good for the kids to hear, because there might be a couple of kids that are stressed.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We talk about that as well, and it's like there needs to be balance.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When we flip to the UK, and remember, the Canadian, less expensive, still expensive, the US, the most expensive if we're applying as an international student. The UK sort of sits in the middle, and they have some things that are really appealing for students. They have some really unique programs, and they also have the opportunity to have some direct entry programs such as medicine, law, veterinary, so vet sciences. Some of those things, because if you were doing that route in Canada, you would go and do your undergraduate and apply to those, for after your undergraduate degree. And so it looks and it sounds, and some kids are absolutely ready and really keen to start with that right away. And so we do have students who apply to those programs and have some successes, and it's wonderful. But you've got to be ready. If you are entering, law school or med school as an 18-year-old or pharmacy as an 18-year-old, you really need to be ready. You need to know that's what you want, and you need to have done a lot of preparation for that. And so it's a little bit, in terms of what they're looking for and how they see that from overseas, We use the UCAS system. It works really well. You've got 5 schools you can apply to. We can look at the research. But they really want specialists, people who have been able to aim their experiences and aim their subjects so that they're ready for that kind of study and that kind of responsibility at a fairly young age. And so, that's not typically, we kind of, I'd say in Canada, we're a little more well-rounded. Do a little service, do a little volunteering, do your school, maybe try some sports, enjoy the outdoors. We really kind of give them sort of that well-rounded opportunity, but I would say that this is a system that we certainly have some success with, but these are kids who have gone on their own to try to find other things to fit the bill so that they can be prepared for those kinds of study. This is a little bit different. They don't look at 9 and 10 marks, but they really, they look at your grade 11 marks, and they ask for teachers to give a predicted grade based on what you know of the student in the first while. So it's a different process that way. There is some student writing, and so a lot of good things there. But just in terms of how would you get specialized when really our system isn't about becoming a specialist necessarily. And this was just an example. I may have used it with people a lot of time, but we do have kids who are interested in direct entry vet science. And how would I become that? Well, here there are a few things. Like, we're a pretty unique school. We've got horses just, a couple buildings over, and we've got some really neat opportunities. So maybe you've done the prerequisite courses in bio and chem. We do have, maybe you've decided to challenge yourself with AP chemistry test rating. We have that unique course in grade 10, the medical science program. And so you've been able to, understand more about, the systems. Equestrian science, we offer that, for 10 and 11. And so that's a whole piece that not many schools offer. You might have volunteered at the barn. If you're a little more skilled, you might do more things. Maybe you can watch when our vets, watch when the dentists are working on the teeth with the horses, helping with the farrier doing the feet, and really understanding more about those higher levels of animal care. People needing to get maybe examples, not just experience with horses. Maybe you've gone to the SPCA and you've done some volunteering. And we do have kids who do that. What do you read on your own? When it's not a part of the course mandate. Are you subscribing? Are you looking online? Have you got some reading that you're pursuing on your own to know what are those things happening in the industry? We have a capstone project where it's sort of, what are you interested in? What would you like to research more and maybe do something that has a positive impact? And we have students who are bringing, that's how you can get kind of pointy. That's how you can sort of show, I've got this wonderful dogwood diploma, but within that and my experiences and how I've kind of finely tuned them towards something that now when I'm applying to direct entry veterinary sciences, that's somebody who has really taken the time, for a few years. That didn't happen in one summer, but that's for that really keen kid who knows that's what they want. That doesn't naturally happen, and we don't really encourage always just go down that fine road, but that's how you can sort of see it. In terms of scholarship, switching subjects here a little bit, but we've had students working so hard on this, and this is one that is absolutely necessary, and we're getting, some high fives in the hallways and things happening, but it takes, it's, again, widely varying between systems and schools. There are lots of students who just by applying, they look at their transcript marks that are being forwarded and based on numbers are getting entry scholarships. No special application, no writing about your wonderfulness, just that these are my marks, and they're trying to sweeten the pot and lure those kids in, and here, we would like to have you, welcome, you're accepted in this program, and here's some money. And those are great. They can be, subject specific. There's another layer where it might require an application, and so those are usually the larger sums of money, and we have a lot of students doing the work for that. So the schools that they've applied to. There's other layer of scholarships, and those are affiliation ones. They're in our communities. They're connected to where we have our insurance, where we bank, our post office, or not our post office, but where we do so many of our things. Our affiliations with clubs. Our unions. There are a lot of those, and sometimes we've had successes with students knowing these are the connections to my family, and I'm going to be applying for those as well. There are community-based ones that are available. There are the national awards, and we have students working on these every year. A big commitment with time and effort, but we have kids doing amazing things, and they are applying for those big national awards. And then there's another layer at the provincial level where we call them the District Authority Awards, where they're looking for excellence in a number of different subject areas. And it doesn't mean that it has to be academic excellence. They're looking at dancers. They're looking at people who are interested in entrepreneurial things. I had an idea. I have Lego robotics. They are looking at a wide range of places where you've really done something above and beyond.
Service.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of places where students are looking to go, and our students are putting a lot of time and effort into this. I really applaud what they're doing right now. The idea of the high-level athletic scholarships, they're out there. Usually that's a process that starts quite young. If someone is making the offer to a grade 12 student and they've not had any communication with board, we get a little bit wary of that because that's a process where that athlete has usually been working at a high level and has had some communication with schools. And there's a process about NC2A scholarships, but certainly those are available. And it's, again, it takes a lot of time and effort, and that's kind of a big part of what they do. A lot of our students will also be in families that are considering financial aid and loans and bursaries to top up, because we know this is an expensive piece when all is said and done. So those things, at this point we're beginning to direct students to. Now you know the school you want to go to, you're accepted, you've got an entry scholarship, but that's now reach out to that financial aid office at the school and talk to them, because that's now, the next step that you can talk about how you can improve on that. So, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Now what? So, check your credits for graduation.
Yep.
This is something that we commonly
do.
do. This, to be honest, is never really a problem for our students. They always have more than enough credits. Well over the 80 credits that are needed. And then just some of these things, we allow students to change courses when they return in the fall. However, we don't love for students to take too long when making these decisions, especially when it's an academic course, because there is the expectation that the material that was missed in September, if they take until October to decide whether they want a course or not, there is an expectation that they make sure that they make up for that material. I talked about My Blueprint already. It's a great place to search and use all of the filters for your university search. You can do that at home. Students will do that as part of their faculty advisory activities and different things like that. We will start to plan to have our grade 11 one-on-one meetings. We'll do those ones first, and then we will move on to the grade 10s, as well as having grade level meetings about some of the general information. Students and parents are always welcome to pop into our office and ask us questions as well. Our door is always open. So those are kind of the next steps in this whole process for everybody.
And the grade 12s,
Our grade 12s have really been successful this year. We've got a lot of really great early offers. These are the places where students are kind of looking and have applied to in Canada. So we've got a lot of variety schools. And as you can see, it's all across the country.
one ocean to the other.
Manitoba, maybe not the snow. And the cold, anyway,
Yeah.
So.
And we do have, they're also going beyond Canada.
Yeah. Flying all over the place.
Yep. Program-wise, this is what we had come up with. We did the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do have a direct entry pharmacy in the UK.
Yeah.
It's very exciting for me.
Yeah.
So lots of really great offers coming in. Lots of scholarship money coming in as well. If you take a look at the Instagram page, I think Haley updates that with kind of our running total. But they've been really, really successful.
Yep.
So,
and a lot of kids are actually staying in British Columbia. They were happy.
Vancouver was big this year.
Yeah.
15 of our grad class of 55.
Yeah. So there we go. So are there any questions that you have for us? That's a lot of information, and it's years away for a number of you, but it's okay to know what's coming up, but it's pretty granular for someone sitting in grade 9 right now. Yeah.
When do we start choosing
The subjects?
the subjects?
Yeah, so those sheets are,
March.
there we go.
First week of March, the last
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
hoping to select this year based on the timetable as opposed to just selecting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yep. So they'll have some time with that, and they do get to hear from the department heads and sort of what all those offerings are. And a big part of that too is talking to the students who are in those courses. I think that's highly recommended. You know, if you are wondering about that medical science course or what is that pre-calc course like, you know, talking to the students who are sitting in it right now.
And we send them to child teachers.
Yeah,
potentially,
yeah.
too.
Getting as much information as you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Just advancing on that, I didn't fully understand when you take a grade 12 and 11, does that grade 11 then be taken to grade 12, or how does that?
So when you can take a grade 12 course in grade 11?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
contemporary Indigenous Studies 12, some students take that in their grade 11 year to check that First Nations learning box, their social studies box, and a grade 12 course that can be used for university entrance. Because if a student is applying to the University of Toronto and needs 6 academic courses in their grade 12 year, it can be really, really heavy load and really stressful. So if they could potentially do one while they're in grade 11, it,
So one's not necessarily a prerequisite.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's just a recommendation, especially if University
I
of
understand.
Toronto is, yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, all of our grade 12 social studies courses, we only have one, there's only one grade 11 in the
Yeah.
province. So all humanities courses after grade 10 are grade 12 level, with the exception of one, we have one comprehensive course.
So that's
if
a
they
pretty
start
common
taking- If they
choice
take
for
social studies
students.
after grade 10,
Yeah.
chances are it's a grade 12 level.
So there's a real mix in those courses of students from different grades. You had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just wondering how the early offer works. I'm not quite clear on how that works.
Yeah.
For example, UBC Vancouver, very popular. The application for an early offer is due December 1st of their grade 12 year. And then the early offer will come typically in February. We're having a lot of students right now getting their early offers. The nice thing about that is usually students pick their number one or kind of rank and have an idea, and they apply to those schools early. If they have an offer early, they can relax a little bit and then just maintain that academic performance
And the grades
until
are
they
based
grad.
on
That's
11.
right, and it's already, and they don't look at their performance again until the summer, once the final.
Yeah.
So it alleviates some of the pressure they have for
Yeah.
their number one.
Yeah. Good question. Did you have one?
Oh, yeah. There's some competition to get into Bio 11. Well, whoever wants to get into Bio 12 didn't necessarily need it. Well, will you guys know based on who signs up for what this spring, like to make enough room for Bio 12?
We'll always have bio 12. This year we actually had double cohort.
Yeah.
We double cohorted the
Bio
grade 11 because it got so
Okay, I
large.
see what you said, yeah.
And then our biology 12, we'll have enough room. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's two options in biology 12. There's anatomy and physiology 12, which is the British
Yeah.
Columbia credit, and then we also have
AP.
AP Bio. But AP Bio needs to be started in grade 11 because it's such a comprehensive, content-heavy course that you actually take anatomy and physiology 12 in the grade 11 year with the AP content, and then you take the AP Bio 12 in the grade 12 year.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one interesting piece about biology is the 11 isn't needed to take 12.
Yeah, it's not a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are good questions.
I have another question,
Yeah.
sorry. I was going to ask, the kid who's going to Capilano University, what was
Yeah.
their draw to go there? I've never,
Animation.
Oh, animation.
Yeah. it's
They
one of the
are
few in the
highly
country,
regarded.
so,
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they actually have just built an amazing film studio facility. And so I think as we have our Mr. Trafford's Wonders happening and students getting more comfortable and interested in film and TV, that'll be interesting to see if they go.
And they've added kinesiology to Capilano as well.
yeah.
Kinesiology is really popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they are trying to have some really interesting niche programs, and they're getting to be quite highly ranked there too. Cynthia?
Curious about the Delph,
Yeah.
by saying it right.
Yeah.
How that helps with applications if they have the Delph.
The only place, like recently, where it's come into play is I had a student that did the Delph in Korea, and then they used the Delph for their second language at UBC Vancouver.
It was interchangeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more, I think, like, it could find its way into university writing in some way, but it's more the importance of something like that would be when applying for a co-op or an internship at university. So that those kinds of things find their way in that way. So it would go on a resume and it would be like a great thing to have.
We have a fabulous French teacher who's kind of taken some of these French immersion kids and getting them their DELF. Their DELF is saying they're certified bilingual.
Yeah, so that's where you'll find
Certainly there are
places to
positives
delve.
to it, yeah.
Yeah, he's excellent that way.
Yeah.
He's kept the French immersion kids excited and bilingual.
Yeah, well, they've worked hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get many students taking a gap year? And can you
Yes,
apply
we
for
do.
the first
Yeah.
entry
We do. Yes.
Yeah. And typically speaking, when they mention gap year, we take them through the process and they defer their offer and their scholarship and their housing and all of that. And then we have a conversation about what are they going to do through their gap year. We used to have the Latitude program where students could go and work in schools around the world, and with COVID, unfortunately, that program kind of collapsed. There is the Gap Program Canada Association that helps students formulate like a more official gap year, and there's other things, but it's usually the conversation around what are you going to do with your time. But yes, we do have students doing gap.
And not all schools will defer, so if they, we're trying to make sure that they understand the schools that do and don't, and we have a few students who know that they've put out some applications now, but they know that they'll circle back to a Calgary next year. And we'll continue to work with those students even if they, they're out the door, but we know that we're going to support those applications that they just couldn't do this year, knowing that they wanted a gap. And it is a very useful thing for a lot of our kids.
Yeah,
for sure.
And they use it for various reasons.
Yeah.
And so just on the AP courses, any downsides to those? If you struggle and you can't really say it was a 4 or 5, if you go out with a 2 or 3, like what's the implication of that?
Nothing. You actually, the students have complete and total autonomy over their exam scores. We don't issue them on the transcript. We don't send them to the universities. The students choose, and in fact, you can take an AP course and earn a percentage grade that's on your transcript, that's accredited by BC, use that as a grade 12 course, but you don't have to take the exam. So it's really a choice to take that exam. And a lot of students, by the end of the year, they choose not to because they may not necessarily need it.
It is, it's more work, it's faster work, and so you go through content a lot faster, and I do think, and there have been some students along the way that have maybe overloaded too much and just felt bogged down by it. But I think well-chosen ones that make sense.
I think it's the well-chosen piece.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when students take AP for the sake of taking AP because they think it'll give them an advantage, but they're not particularly interested in the subject matter, that it is a disadvantage.
Yeah. Fine. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I hope that was valuable time, and I think obviously lots of information there, and hopefully a really good foundation and a good platform for you to move forward and have some conversations and build your own awareness as well of what the next stages look like. There is, so just thank you to our team and our presenters, to Carol, to Sue, and to Ali as well. Thank you very much. It was really well done. There's lots of food. Linger. We'll all hover, linger. If you have more specific questions or something pops up or you just want to discuss something else, then please come and have a chat. It'd be unusual if you brought Tupperware, but if you have, you're welcome to take something with you.
Next time, remember the Tupperware.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming, and have a lovely night. The Welshman brought Tupperware.